Are you thinking to build your own tiny home, but the more you look into it, the more complicated it seems? Then come along with us as we navigate you through all the options and restrictions, helping you make this dream come true. Let's go. Hey guys, Musa here from Quantum Home Improvements and Solutions. Welcome back. And this is your first time to our channel. It's great having you join us. And so I'm excited to say we're now up to stage 2 of this tiny home construction, where we're going to make the walls and also the roof. And so if you haven't seen stage 1, it's where we made the base using universal beams, which we got from Orcon Steel through my friend Renee from Fast Flow Augers. And with the help of Mr. Suka, Marion, and our TYM tractor, better known as the new and improved Marcus, we were able to put it together. So after we finished cutting everything, we then welded everything together using the Unimig 185 Viper, which I got from Total Tools, and it's a great machine. So off camera, I went through and finished off all the welding, which is mainly the floor joists, but also underneath. And also on the high end, I removed the timbers and put concrete blocks. So now it's loading directly onto the ground with a much wider area of load. And so then we re-leveled it, and now it's fantastic. It's perfect on that end. So this end here, we designed through George, the engineer who certified this project, the footings, which are 300 deep by 500 by 500. It has 2 layers of steel in there, and it was concreted 2 weeks ago, so they're now ready for loading. And now the stands that are going to sit on that concrete are made from the same material, the 100 by 100 SHS 3mm thick, and it has a vertical section. It has 4 legs welded onto a base plate, and then there's also some bolts that sit on the top plate, which the nuts were welded underneath, and so these now are adjustable. And so we wanted adjustable so we can get the right height here. This needs to be perfectly level. And so we have one that takes the load, and the other side is actually a tie down. So these will also be dyno bolted into the ground, and it'll all be connected. So there'll be no movement and no shearing. I forgot to mention all the RHS and SHS we got from Priority Steel in Seven Hills. So now I've got Marion here to give me a hand.
Hi.
So you probably noticed I've changed my clothes. So in the first video, unfortunately, I didn't use my protective clothing. My father was a class 1 welder, and you'd think I'd know better, but it's been a while. And so I burned a hole through my pants with the grinder and welder. They're now repaired. I'm using old clothes because you will actually damage your clothes when you're doing this kind of work. So now we've got a plate here, which is also 8mm. This is a spreader plate designed by George, the engineer. Okay, so I just put the plate underneath and mark that out. Now what I'm going to do is spray some lubricant here. This helps to drill through thick steel. Here we go. Now I'm going to have to be careful not to get the shavings into my eyes. Beautiful. Just take that screw out. Marion, if you could just drop that bolt in. All right, I'll just put a washer on, and I'll put the nut on, but I'll get you to turn it for me because it'd be hard for me to turn it here. Okay, this is the second nut we're putting on. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Stop there. And now we're going to put a third nut on. Not much room under here. Go now. Okay, now just drop that in. Okay, now tighten it. And now I'm ready to dyno bolt these stands into the concrete, and I'm using 12mm by 100mm dyno bolts, and I've got 4 of them. One thing I didn't mention before, when I did put these legs together, I welded the plate underneath after welding the nut, and then I went and cleaned it up with a brush using a drill, and then sprayed it with zinc plate spray. So these things are now protected from the weather. Okay, so now I've got my Bosch cordless drill, and with a 12mm masonry bit. This is actually brilliant, made by Irwin. And so now I'll just place it in the hole and just drill down. Okay, so there's one thing to note when you're drilling into any kind of masonry. You need to continually go back up to take the air pocket out because it does blow sometimes into your face. Okay, I'll just clean that out. So you've got to go a little bit longer than the actual dyno bolt. All right, so now I'll just put that in here. Just tap it down with a hammer. So when you are tapping it down, make sure that the nut is higher than the thread of the screw because you will damage the screw. So just softly, just gently, just tap that down. Just nice and gently. Okay, that's it. All right, now I'll just lock that off. Now I'll do the next one. Okay, both sides are done. Woohoo! Now we're going to get rid of these car jacks and let these be the permanent stands. So this screw here was designed to be the adjuster. So now I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to lift this tiny home up, literally with just with this bolt. So this should get to a point where the stand will come loose. There we go. Okay, so now before I lock this off, I'm going to do the same on the other side and then start leveling this out for the last time. As I'm doing this, I can hear the plates loading, so they're actually loading onto the ground, so it's putting pressure on it, which is fantastic. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. All right, this is almost free. I can see it, and that looks free there now. And there we go. These are now out of here. Woohoo! Okay, so that's altered the level just a little bit going up. I'm now going to reduce it back down a little bit. We'll see how we go with that. That looks fantastic. Beautiful, spot on. Now I'm going to lock off this bottom nut. Now, because we've got such a long distance between the shank, I've put another nut on this side to strengthen this, because this is the hold down. So to strengthen this side, and also I've got a nut up the top, and that's going to lock this off to the plate. That whole thing now is connected. Now we'll finish off the other side. It's a new day. It was a screamer yesterday, so we decided to get out of the sun. It was really hot. I became very dark, which is not a bad thing. But anyway, so now we're going to start making the frames. I went through and grinded off all the high points where these frames are going to sit over. So first we're going to start off by making the west wall, which is this wall here. And we're going to be using 70 by 70 mil by 3 mil thick square hollow section. And we're going to use the base to square it off. We're going to actually allow this to go across those joints to strengthen it up. So now on the west wall, the height of the walls are going to be 2.730, because the height on this side is actually going to be 2.450. We want a 5-degree fall. We will be using corrugated color bond on this, so we need a 5-degree fall minimum, which is what they call 1 in 12. It's not exact, but 1 in 12 is around 5 degree. So you notice now I've got my protective wear on, so I've got my leather apron and also got my leather gloves. Now these are longer than the others, so the weld doesn't come up my arms. Beautiful. That's fantastic. That fits nicely. Okay, so here's a diagram that I drew of the walls, and this is the west wall. So we're making this one. We've cut the bottom plate, top plate. Now we need to cut the studs. So the height, as I said before, is 2.730, and we need to minus the top plate and bottom plate, which is both 70 mil, so it's minus 140. And so before ordering all the steel, I made a cutting chart of all the pieces I'm going to need. And so I've got on the west wall how many pieces I've allocated. And so that's going to help me to remember what I'm going to put where. All right, so now we'll just mark out the next ones. Now with these offcuts here will be used on the east wall, which is this wall this side, and these offcuts will be used as the cross brace, so nothing goes to waste. Okay, Marion, let's put this one in place. Okay, that's the last one. Now we'll just put them all in position, ready for welding. Perfect. All the studs now are the same width, and so we've done a cross measure and we know that it's now square. So if you want your walls to be level and you've got a level base, you measure from one end, the opposite corner, and then you go back and do the other side, and the measurements need to be close to the same. So this is out by 1 mil. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place some quick grips away from the welding spot so they don't melt. This is an Irwin quick grip. Well, the reason I'm doing that, when you weld, you tend to, the steel will tend to move a bit. So you got to tack it and make sure that it's straight, and then you come through and weld it fully. To start welding, first I need to put the earth on. I'll just connect it to the universal beam. I'll put the gas on. Now the gas is an argon oxygen mix. Okay, so now I'm going to use my welding mask. Now the welding mask is a special one. It's a shut-off mask. So what you do, you can see through it, and as you're welding, it starts to shut out, so it goes dark. so you don't get any flash in your eye. And the last thing you want to do is get a flash in your eye. It lasts for 24 hours, and I've had it, and it's not fun. It feels like grains of sand in your eyes, so be really careful to wear a mask. Also, be careful to weld in a ventilated area. If the gases around there can actually damage you. God rest his soul, my father died of emphysema. He was an arc welder, and those fumes are probably a bit more stronger than just an argon. But one thing I've got to say, after speaking to my mate Bruce, who's a fitter and turner, he does a lot of welding. He said when you do weld outside, because there's a breeze, you'll lose your gas. So sometimes you've got to turn your gas up just to weld properly. And I was wondering why I was going through so much gas. In actual fact, this video, I've got a bigger bottle. I was going through a lot of gas. So now this one's about 2.5 times more capacity. Okay, I'll just turn the machine on. It's just on the back here. And once again, this is a Unimeg Viper 185. It can do MIG, TIG and arc welding, and with the MIG welding you can do gas or gasless. So one thing you got to do, you got to keep cleaning out the tip. So this welder can weld up to 10 mil steel. Now this is 3 mil galvanized, so I've turned it down to suit that. Okay, so now we've just discovered there's not enough gas coming through, and again the wind's blowing, so the weld is looking a little bit high. So the technique of welding I'm using is the drag technique, so you can actually have the push technique, the perpendicular and the drag. I prefer the drag, and when you are welding downwards it's a lot more difficult, so welding on horizontal levels I find a lot easier. Some people find it going down is easier. Okay, that was a much better weld. And Bruce was 100% correct. So we had to raise the gas then. The gas was just being blown away. It's a little bit windy today, not overly, and it just wasn't welding properly. Is it sitting on the base properly? Okay, I'm just going to give it a quick tack. Well, that's a perfect weld. It just goes to show when the wind blows how difficult it is to weld. Anyway, I'll keep going. This is going fantastic. So I've put the cross brace on the other side. So what I did first was put the steel going across, marked it out, grind cut it, put it in place, welded, tack welded first, then welded in place. And then once I did that, then I got another piece of steel going the opposite direction, marked it on both sides, the same as this one, but also in the middle. And then I cut all the sides, the both ends and then the middle. And so then I just joint them side by side, and now it's fully cross braced. And so now I've done this side, and all I've got to do is just finish this one little corner, and this is finished or complete at this point. Okay, that's done. One thing to note, which I forgot to say, be careful when you've got dry grass and you're welding and it's a warm day. You will have grass fires, and we've had it all along here. And this is very short grass and we still have grass fires. So be careful not to weld on extremely hot days. Okay, so now get Marion, give me a hand. We're going to take this wall off. Okay, we're back. It's a beautiful day. It is overcast. It did rain a little bit earlier. Mary and I set up the steel. So now the east wall is a little bit different to the west wall. We do have a sliding door coming through here. Now originally I drew this bracing section to more to the right, to my right, to your left. But we decided to even it out, put the bracing dead center, because there will be a kitchenette just right here. So we've allowed a bit more room so the door is away from the kitchenette. And once again, we quick gripped all the steel together to stop any movement or to reduce it. And then we went through, did a cross measure to make sure that it is square and everything's perfect. So I went through and started welding, and then I went through and did the cross brace. It's all done. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go fast. Beautiful. Okay, we decided to have a bit of a break and we've come back fresh. So now we're going to get into making the south and north wall. These are pretty simple. They're very small, only 3.2 meters, minus the 70 mil on either end. Now, why minus? Because this is going to butt up against the longer walls. So that means I've got to take 70 mil off both sides. So instead of 3.2, it's going to be 3.060, 3 meters and 60 mil. And also that's going to implicate my measurements. So on this side here was 2.730 and this side here was 2.450. So it's 280 mil difference. Now, if I was to make the exact same measurements as I did for the outer walls, then this here will be higher because it's got to travel another 70 mil. It will be about 7 mil higher, and that side there will be about 7 mil lower. So I'm actually going to deduct 7 mil off this end on my height, and I'm going to increase 7 mil on that end. So it'll get pretty close. So I'll start on this wall first because it is going to be easier. So now we've got the top plate on. This is not the cut section yet. I put it on just to make sure that my angle is correct, and the angle turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Now what I've done is use some offcuts, which are 70 mil, use them as the frame that's going to sit here so I can get a really good idea where this is going to sit, and I put them around on the four sides, and the bottom plate now sits in place, and this is looking really good. So now what we're going to do is just make sure our measurements are correct, and then we need to do a cross check. Now, because this is not totally the same size, what we're going to do is measure the low side and then measure it out on the other side, and then do a cross measure from that low side. So then we can see if this is square or not. Just mark out 2390. 2390, which is right there. Now that's the point where we need to do a cross check. Okay, that's 2380. If you can go to that side. Ah, perfect, 2380. That is spot on. Okay, so this is now set. So what I might do is slide this down to the length I need, which is there. Perfect. And I'll weld this in place, and I'll cut that piece off once we've welded it. Okay, so one thing to note, because these are going to butt up against the other walls, we cannot weld this side, the bottom, or the other side. We can only weld just this and this, that's all. Okay, so now all the sides have been welded. So what I've got to do now is just take all the clamps off, cut off that extra length, and just do the cross brace, and this is complete. Okay, the south wall is complete. So now we've set out the parameter exactly the same as we did on the south wall for the north wall. But as I said, this wall is different. So I've gone through, leveled it out. Marion and I did a cross measure. That's all turned out perfect. This one is actually dead on square, which is fantastic. Okay, so now I've gone through and welded the corners after clamping everything down. So now what we're gonna do here, there will be a door here and there will be a window up here. So this is the ensuite area. So we're gonna make the window to the center of the north wall, but in the ensuite, it's actually going to be to the far left next to the toilet, so we can get away from the shower area. Okay, so now we've cut this piece out to make the door jamb. So this area is 770 wide, and then we've cut that on an angle like all the others, and we're ready to weld it in. And then we have the header here. So we'll put that in after we've welded this piece in. Okay, so now we'll just put the header on. So for the door, I'm aiming for 1650. So this area here, the door's here basically to put the hot water system inside, so it'll be an access from outside. Okay, so one thing to take into consideration, it's really important that you measure a few times, like at least twice, to make sure that your measurements are correct. So I said 1650 for the height for the opening of the door, but I was measuring to the top here. So in actual fact, I want the opening, this area here, to be 1650 from the base of the bottom plate. Okay, that's spot on. Okay, so that's done. Now we just have to do the cross bracing and it's finished. Okay, just got to rule it up. Just give me a second. Doing the last final cross braces and just mark all these out. Okay, so we've gone through and marked and cut all the pieces. There's only 3 more left. So there's one there, one here, and one there. Okay, it's all done. Marion, what do you think?
I think it's looking good.
Fantastic. Okay, we're ready to put the walls up and we've got a heap of guys here. And so there is an element of risk here. So I got more guys than what we needed. They got their PPE on and we're ready to go. And you would know most of these guys. They've been on other videos with me. So you got Marcus, Xiaomin, Marcel, also known as Abu Karim. You got Louis, George, Pat, Mark, and Michael.
Hey guys.
Okay, so what we're going to do first is have a toolbox talk. We're going to go through all the elements and it's pretty simple the way this is going to go. And we're going to do a lot of the work with the new and improved Marcus, which is called the TYM. Okay guys, I'll just ask if you can go to the outer corners. Some of you stay in the inside, so probably 4 on the inside and then 2 on either side. So I'm going to ask you all to do it in unison. Some of you will not be able to put your hands through yet. Okay, wait until it's lifted, then put your hands through. Be careful with your fingers. I want you to lift it up as high as you can, drag it up a bit, and then place it on top of this. It'll be on an angle on this, all right? If you could do that now. Ready? Okay, go now, guys. Beautiful. Now drag it uphill. Marcel and Pat, I'm behind you. What I'm gonna ask you to do, once I'm sure that I've got it, I'm gonna ask you to move to your right and left, out of the way. Marcel, can you move out of the way? Now Louis and George, come out of the frame. Are you ready? How close am I, Michael? Okay, now I'm going to get a few of it to come around this side and hold it up for me. Keep it up on that angle. I'm going to let it go. Marcus, come around this side and pass me the sling. Thanks, Marcus. Now guys, I want you to lift it up gently. Michael, can you give me a rough 90? Hold it, guys, I'm coming down. I'm gonna keep it there. Can you relax it onto that? Ready? Just lift it up. George, can you grab that and pull it onto the base? Guys, walk it up. Beautiful. Louis, can you hit up high this frame here? I've got to come out 5 mil, 10 mil. Yep, go. That's level, guys. I'm going to ask you to stand it, but just pull it that way as well so it doesn't fall off the edge. Go now, come to me. Keep it coming, a little bit more. Just watch your fingers. Let me just check that. Yeah, that's it. That's level there. That's how it's done, guys. Now, let me walk with you. I'll get you all on the outside. All right, go. That's going in, Mark. Check that out.
Beautiful.
Okay, that one's done. Okay guys, watch out on a ladder. Most accidents happen on short ladders, and don't stand on this top flat platform. It's all done. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark.
Thank you.
Where's Marcus?
No problem.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Chicken Nugget. Hey, Marcus. This is looking amazing. I'm so happy with this. Marion, what do you think?
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, look, it's a lot of work. Thank you very much, my little girl.
You're welcome.
And once again, thanks to all the guys for giving a hand. This wouldn't have been possible without them. And so after a break, I went through and put a string line on the bottom plate, and I found there was a big bow, and said what I did then is put some clamps on, hit them in place, tightened it up and welded. Now the welds are 500 apart. So the actual gap between it is 400 mil, and the welds are 100 mil on the outside. On the inside, they're 50 mil. The only place that hasn't been welded is where the sliding door is going. So just in this area here, that bottom plate's going to be cut out, and then we're going to put a sliding door there. We also welded on the verticals on the inside and outside at the same distance. And so I also went through and grinded off the stoppers that helped us to put the frames up. But we did find a bit of an issue with the top plate here. There's a big bow in it. So we've gone through and cut all the ceiling joists on that angle, same as what we did for the walls. And so also we took the sling off from this section of the wall, the west wall, and put it on the east wall. And so what we've done is actually pulled it through. So the wall is now dead level. I'm very happy with that. We've gone through and we've put the 100 by 100 beam up the top. Now that's roughly in the middle. It's not exactly, but roughly. But what we've done here, instead of putting all the ceiling joists at 900 centers, we've actually brought these a little closer. And these ones are at 840 centers. And so that way we can actually connect the wall directly into the ceiling joist. So now to stabilize the ceiling joist, I'm going to weld that in. And from that point on, I'm going to use the extendable ladder on the inside and lean up against it. Oh, beautiful. That's that one. And that one. Okay, second one done. The 7th rafter is now up. I'll put that in position and weld it. I am working now off the extendable ladder. Now this ladder is a very special ladder. I bought it a long time ago. It's very high quality, and the leg is adjustable. There's a little yellow button on the bottom there, and the leg contracts back and forth. So I don't have to prop up one leg with the other if the ground is slightly uneven. So it actually is really safe. Now, one thing also to note, I've been on ladders for most of my life and I'm very good at being on a ladder. But one thing is really dangerous is becoming complacent. Now most accidents happen on short ladders, but any kind of ladder is dangerous. So always be mindful, if you're not good on a ladder, I would suggest you don't do this kind of work, that you get someone to do it for you. The last one. Unfortunately, as I was getting to the end of the welding, I tapped the tip against the steel just to clean it out, as I've done 1,000 times. But unfortunately earlier, a piece of steel fell down and hit the tip, and it must have fractured it and it broke the neck. And so I rang Total Tools and they didn't have any in stock. They've got one on order for me, but they were nice enough to send me to ADG, where I spoke to Jai, and Jai sold me this new hose, and it fits the Unimeg, which is universal. But this particular brand is the Abicor Binzel, and it's a German brand, and apparently it's really good. All right, so now I'll get into it and finish off the welding. All done. This is fantastic. So the only thing I need to do now is put the cross bracing on the roof. So this is 1 mil thick. You can get thin or thicker ones. So I've got the thickest I could find at the hardware store. And these are the brace tensioners, and we'll put them on later. So this is a 30-meter roll. We have just measured out, we're going to need roughly about 7 meters, but I don't want to make a mistake on this, so I'm going to cut a little bit extra. We'll just measure out 7 meters, go. Done it. Go right over. Man, I'm just going to put a screw here just to tie it down so it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so now I've got the strap on the opposite end. I'm going to put the last one in. All done. The straps are finished. This is fantastic. All right, so now I've got the tensioners, the brace tensioners, and it's a pack of 6, and we only need 4 here, but sometimes if you can't get enough tension, you'll have to put another one. So we'll see how we go. So you can see at the moment, it's very loose, and you can see a lot of buckles in it. We've got to get all the bows and buckles out of it. So it's got to be really, really tight. So now in the past, I've only ever used them with wing nuts. This one here has a hex drive, makes it a lot easier. All right, so what I'm going to do here, I'll take my fingers out of the way so you can see. So just drill that in and see how that's collapsing in, and look how it tensions it. Beautiful. So these straps have different hole sizes, so I'm putting it through the big hole, and you have these little holes. So when later on, what I'm going to have to do is put some wafer self-drilling screws into the steel as well, and each purlin or each rafter will need 2 of them. Perfect. So now if it's out of square, this is where you square it. So if the wall was going too far that way, you'd put another one in here and it'll bring it in. And vice versa. If this one is out, I would put another one here and bring it in. Now before I do that, I'm actually going to get a level on the wall. And look at that. That is perfect. Okay, the last brace tensioner is on, and just in time. George, the engineer, is here and having a quick look at the structure. George, thanks for coming.
Musa, nice to see you.
Thanks for coming. Hey, thanks for everything. This turned out fantastic. What do you think? What do you think?
I've done an inspection.
Yep.
And all the floors, the beams, the supports, but more importantly, the X-bracing is in place.
Yeah.
So it looks like a very robust system.
This has to go on the road, right? A lot of people are not going to understand this, why I made this so heavy duty. This is going to be put on a semi-trailer and could travel potentially hundreds of miles. Now, George, with all the welds, some of these welds I've gone to 12 mil. You can see them, right? Especially on the universal beam. Yeah.
So my checks are based on a 6 mil continuous fillet weld. And based on the inspection I've done here today, they easily over 6 mils. It's obviously over-designed, but I think because it's going to be going on wheels and transported to different places, I think it's important to have a little bit more buffer in the design.
Great.
So
I haven't overdone it.
No, I think you've done the right thing.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, when this goes on road, it's going to have very minimal deformation, which is what you want.
Beautiful. And George, the stands that we made, I drew the concept, I gave you the drawing, and then you perfected it with putting a double screw on there, having a tie down, having a load bear. Are you happy with all that?
Look, I'm very happy with that, and there was a reason we did that. The reason was we wanted one of the bolts.
Yep.
You mentioned screw, but they're actually bolts.
Yes, correct.
We wanted one of the bolts to be a bit of a tie down against the wind load, so it doesn't overturn.
Yep, and no shearing as well.
That's right,
yep.
And to resist the shear. And the second bolt basically provides enough strength to support the structure under compression. It's a very safe structure.
Great.
It's been checked, it's been designed.
Thank you.
And one thing I will point out is that whenever you want to do something along these lines, you should always get a structural engineer to perform the design checks and to provide the certification to the relevant DCA and NCC and also the relevant Australian standards. Yeah,
look, George, I think you're 100% right, because what's the use of spending so much money, then find out that it's not roadworthy or it's not structural? You're just wasting your money.
Absolutely.
So
it's come out very well, Musa.
Thank you, George. Thank you for everything you've done. And if you're looking for George, if you want his services, I will put a link in the description below for him.
Thank you, Musa.
And I'd also like to thank my beautiful girl here, who just, I couldn't have done it without her. There's a couple of times where I really struggled. I was just saying to her last night that I think maybe I shouldn't have done this. I've pushed myself over the limit, but the reality is once we've finished the structure, it does get a little bit easier. So Marion, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
One thing I forgot, beside George's link, I'm also going to put a link in the descriptions for Orcon Steel, Priority Steel, Fast Flow Augers, for Total Tools, and for ADG. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And if you have any comments at all, please leave below and I will get back to you. And I ask you, please consider to subscribe, hit the like button and share this video, and there's many more to come. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, first wall almost knocked over. Come on, Wahash.
I feel like Mel Gibson now.
Hang on. I thought you were Mel Gibson.
No, I'm not Mel Gibson.